Hello and welcome to the Savage Stream, the weekly live stream where we talk all things Star Trek. And today we're doing things a little bit differently. Today happens to be, at the time of this recording, the last day in the decade of 2025, which is wild because just saying 2025 already makes me feel like I'm in the future. Like, we've surpassed the age of the Jetsons, we've surpassed the age of Back to the Future. We are like very, very much in the future. We're not quite in Star Trek times, but we're so close. We're so close. So what I wanted to do today was, instead of my typical stuff where I'm talking about top 10 best episodes of XYZ, what I would love to do for today is just to take a look back on all of the live streams that we've had for 2025 and go over some of my favorite memories, my favorite moments, some of my favorite episodes, some of my favorite live streams. So today is really just going to be a walk down memory lane for me. So may not be as useful for you. If this is not your jam, no worries. Go ahead and check back in next week or look at my lovely library of videos. I want to say hello to everyone who's here live. Hello to everyone who is joining on the replay. And without further ado, let me switch over to looking at some of the videos that have come out on this channel from the beginning. So I started this channel in 2024. My very first live stream was, well, it says a year ago. Let me see. My very first video was like July or something like that. But my very first live stream, it's around the same time. And so I may have had some others that I deleted because I was too embarrassed, but here is my very first one on this channel, which is Are Transporters Lethal? And that conversation was actually super interesting. It was about the transporters and whether or not they're murder machines. So there is a group of people who subscribe to the idea that every time you go through the transporter, you come out as a new person, as a new copy. So basically, you go into the transporter, you are murdered by the transporter, and then the transporter makes a new copy of you wherever you were supposed to go. So that's one like camp of thought. And then another camp of thought, which is my camp of thought, is that you're just transferred, that the energy is just transferred, like sending an email. It goes from one space to the other space, but it doesn't like delete the first thing to create the next thing. So I made a whole live stream about it. And the funny thing is, like, there's kind of evidence for both. And because the technology is not totally perfect the way that it's laid out in the different episodes, I could see why people would believe in either option. But I just think, and then there was this whole existential conversation too about what, like, for me, if it's the exact same atoms in the exact same position, the same memories, the same thoughts, the same values, the same history, the same backstory, the same likes and dislikes, that is the same person. That is the same person. But I guess for other people, they feel like a duplicate is nothing like the first person at all in any way, shape, or form, which I think is so wild, right? Because I think about every time I post anything about Harry Kim on social media, people are always like, he's not the real Harry Kim, you know? And it's like, but he is the real Harry Kim. He is a duplicate Harry Kim. He's not like a fake Harry Kim. He's not even a clone. He's the exact same Harry Kim from a slightly different phase of time. He's exactly the same. And people are always like, he's not real and he doesn't deserve anything. He doesn't deserve happiness in life. You know, they're like, he doesn't deserve a promotion. He's not the real Harry Kim. And I'm like, he's totally the real Harry Kim, which is so crazy to me. So it makes sense to me, though, that if people are saying he's not the real Harry Kim, people are also saying, you know, the transporters kill you and make a new one. I am not people. I don't agree with those two things. But that was a good conversation for the first live stream. Hello to everybody who's joining. Thank you so much, PS2 Chipper, for the 5 membership donations. So get the memberships while they're hot. I think all 5 have been taken, though. So enjoy. Welcome. Drop a !board in the comments if you're a part of the away team. We had this other conversation in the beginning, and PS2 Chipper, I think you were here for both of these, actually. So you've been here longer than I have, I think, at this point. But we had another conversation about, can the replicators make you rich? Because while the Federation doesn't use currency still exists, right? There's Latinum and, you know, other types of ways that people exchange goods and services, right? So the question is, why can't the replicators just make Latinum? Why are the Ferengi always like obsessed about having gold pressed Latinum? Why can't it just make gold? Why can't it just make Latinum? And so I had a whole live stream about my thoughts on that, and I got to do a whole deep dive into technology and how replicators work, and it was fun. Like, I kind of like that stuff. I like the technology. I like the deep dives into nonsense. It's just good times. Yeah, no worries. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everyone. I'm just doing a little walk down memory lane. So let's see. I exist in the fourth dimension outside of time. Okay, so you're one of the travelers. Congratulations. Their lives seem pretty wild. Hold on a second. I cannot see what you can see. Let me change that. Gold, worthless gold. Exactly. Gold is so worthless, but latinum is just like, like that's so special. So it's like, what's the difference? And looking it up, it was that latinum is a liquid. Sure, why not? So latinum is a liquid, and what the gold does is it gives it a medium for the liquid to be mixed in with so that it can be exchanged, because it's hard to do drops of latinum. So it's by being pressed in the gold, it's being mixed with the gold, because gold is something you can easily pass from person to person. And in that episode with the worthless gold, which I forget the name of that episode, that's the episode where I was going to say Norm. What's this guy's name? With Ron. Oh, gosh. What's his name? When we thought What's-His-Face was dead. Somebody remind me of this guy's name. I'm totally blanking out. The guy who's always sitting at Quark's bar. The episode where we thought he was dead, which that was such a fun episode. In the end, he like spits out all of the latinum into this glass, and it's just like this liquid pouring from him. It's super gross, but a very cool idea that currency could be a liquid. Morn, thank you. I knew it was Norm in some other form, but I couldn't remember how it was. Okay, Morn, thank you. Who mourns for Morn? That was the name. Yeah, it wasn't Rom, but that's what was coming to my head. It was Morn. It was the episode Who Mourns for Morn, which was such a fun episode. Highly recommend if you haven't seen it in a while. This one, I'm curious what's in this one. So in this one where it says Star Trek Voyager episodes that every Trekkie should see, I'm really curious what my top ones were, because I had picked 10, but I didn't go as thoroughly as I liked to go. So I feel like some of the episodes probably aren't my tippy top, and then other ones probably are. But this episode that is the cover art is an episode called Prototype, which I really adore. It's really cool because we get to see B'Elanna do some engineering stuff, without punching anybody in the face. And we get to see this race of automatons, of robots that have been at war with this other race of robots for like hundreds or thousands of years or something like that. And then they're all dying, and B'Elanna gets to trying to save their species because they kidnapped her and forced her to. But whatever, she's trying to use her engineering to save them, and by the time she figures out how to save them, she realizes that the creators made this failsafe so that they would break, so that they couldn't make more, so that they couldn't keep going on forever and ever. And then she also discovered that the robots killed the people who created them, because the people who created them wanted a ceasefire. They didn't want any more war, which meant the robots wouldn't have a function anymore. So they just killed all the builders and kept on warring. And so then B'Elanna was like, crap, I can't allow them to reproduce, because then this war will just really never end. So after she brings this robot back to life, and it goes, I forget what asked her for programming or something like that. And she like stabs it in the chest. She murders it, and then she gets beamed out. And then because another ship of automatons shows up, they start fighting, and Voyager's able to slip away. But like, good thing they came at that exact moment. Otherwise, Voyager probably would have been destroyed, or I don't know what. So good. So good. So good. Yes, every episode, watch them all. He's always talking way too much. That Morn. Let's see. This one, Data is my favorite character. He's the TNG character I feel the most like. Hello. Happy New Year. This episode was just me talking about 10 episodes of Data that I really like. And you know what? It wasn't too hard to pull this list, because I think in all of TNG, there's not only because it's quite a bit, but I think there are about 13 episodes that are Data centered, I believe. So picking the top 10 was pretty easy. It was just like, pick all of them, pick all of them, except for maybe the one where he had the dream. Not the one where he answered the phone. Probably that one too. I think that one was Phantasms. And I think the first one was, I always call it Daddy Issues, so then I forget what the real name of it is. Sins of the Father? No. Whatever it was. Maybe those were like two and maybe one other one that I skipped, but pretty much all of them. Times Arrow, Descent, Fistful of Datas, The Offspring, lots and lots of good ones. This was just like good memories, just seeing Data being awesome Data. This episode I remember. By the way, for anyone who's joining me live at this time, I'm just doing a walk down memory lane, so feel free to chime in. This one right here about Geordi's best episodes. I think just from how it was a year ago when I had that live stream, it was pretty hard to find 10 episodes that starred Geordi. So I don't even know if all 10 were strictly speaking about Geordi. I might have had to fudge 2 or 3 of them and be like, well, Geordi was in it a lot. We'll call it a Geordi episode. Because I don't think he had 10 full episodes. But this one that's showing right here, Relics, is so good. And it's not even this is a perfect example. It's not really a Geordi episode. It's really an episode about Scotty. But because Geordi's an engineer and Scotty's an engineer, they had some really cool moments together, and the two of them worked together to save the Enterprise in the end. So he was a hero of this episode, but it wasn't like a Geordi-centered episode. An episode that was more Geordi-centered was, what is Identity Crisis? That one where he gets that virus, and it turns him kind of invisible. And then he runs off into the planet, and he's living in a cave, and they capture him, and they kind of reverse it. That's like that. It pretty much is about Geordi, but also, is it? You know what I mean? Like, it's about Geordi, but he turns invisible and becomes an alien, and we only see him for a few minutes in the first half of the episode. So I don't know. That one was hard. I do remember that. That one was really tricky. But do like some good Geordi episodes. And my plan was to do like one top 10 for all of the main bridge crew, which I think I did for TNG. And then I wanted to do the same thing for Voyager, but that was too hard. I'm guessing it was too hard because I never did it. Or maybe it's on my list of things to do in the future. This is really funny. I have best couples and then I have worst couples. So I did them just a couple weeks apart. And I think these pictures say it all. This one, I do remember when I was doing research for the couples in TNG, I think there was like 50 couples or more that I wrote down on this Word doc. Which I didn't realize. And for couples, I just mean anyone who hooked up for an episode, because almost none of these couples last for more than an episode. They're just there for the particular plot, that particular storyline. By the end of the episode, usually they haven't died, sometimes, but usually they haven't died. Usually they've gone off. They had to leave the ship, or they went back to their planet, or the people on the planet went back to their ship, etc. For some reason, they had to part ways amicably, almost all of the couples. This one, the cover, which is Wesley and, oh gosh, what's her name? Robin Leffler? Lieutenant Leffler, I think is her name. I think this is from the game, because I think that's the only episode the two of them were in together. And they're just so freaking cute. Changed gender too. Who changed gender? Oh yeah, sometimes they change gender. Like in Beverly's case. In that case, if the Trill did not change gender, the Trill would have died at some point. If it didn't change gender and change hosts a whole bunch of times. But yeah, like Beverly and Leffler were super cute. Like they were one of my favorite couples probably, because they were the least, I don't want to say problematic, because it wasn't problematic. They were the least dysfunctional. You know, they were the most normal couple. And I really wish we could have had more Ashley Judd on Star Trek. I think she would have been such a great recurring character. She was seen, I think, like one other time in the background. I don't even think she had lines, but it would have been so cool to have her kind of showing up and being more of a presence. But maybe she couldn't because she was doing all those movies. I don't know. And then worst couples over here, it was like the same list, you know? Okay, so I did this one with Andrea, which is my co-host for the TNG podcast. And that was fun. It's always good times. Like, it's always good times talking to her. There were so many couples on this list. Like I said, there was 50. I think there was over 50. But I was trying to narrow it down. And then I needed to pick, like, the top 10 and the bottom 10. And it was so hard because some of them, like, I think one of the couples I didn't talk about at all. I did not talk about Troy and Riker in either of these. I did not talk about Troy and Worf in either of these. And Andrea had brought that up. She was like, why didn't you mention Troy and Riker? Why didn't you mention Troy and Worf? And I was like, I don't know, because sometimes I feel like maybe they're a good couple, and sometimes I feel like maybe they're a bad couple. I am not a fan of the Troy and Worf thing, just because it felt so out of the blue. Just so totally out of the blue in season 7. I was like, since when is this a thing? But I couldn't really say, oh my gosh, they're a terrible couple. They were just kind of random and barely a thing, because they went on, I don't know, like 1 or 2 dates before Genesis, and he tried to eat her or whatever. And then, I don't know, maybe like 1 or 2 dates afterwards. We don't really see them as a couple in order to say yay or nay is what I'm saying. And then with Riker, I feel like he was just a bunch of nonsense. I just feel like he was a bunch of nonsense. He was always like, oh, Troy, I just can't be with you because my career matters more. And then Troy would be with someone and she'd be like, and then he'd be like, I can't believe you're with someone. That sucks. And I just was like, when I watched the show the first time, I was all about Troy and Riker. I wanted them to be together so badly. When I watched it as an adult, I'm like, girl, if you do not move on with your life, like, he has made it very clear he's just not that into you. It's pretty funny. This, what's that lady's name? Okay, I don't remember her name. Yeah, I agree, Robin rules. I don't remember her name, the lady who was in love with Data. Jennifer, maybe? But yeah, that couple was horrible. That was the worst couple. I'm pretty sure they won for like the worst couple. If for no other reason than at the end she goes, I found somebody who's very emotionally unavailable again. And it's like, you think? You knew he was an android from the beginning. Come on, dude. So I don't know. That couple was so offensive to me because I felt like Data, I mean, thankfully Data doesn't have feelings so he couldn't get hurt. But I feel like the whole thing was set up to really hurt Data's feelings. It was just weird. This episode I remember very well. Hey, look, it's Nadia. This was the live stream that was just celebrating 57 years of Star Trek. It was Star Trek Day 2024. Oh, that's not even 2025. I went back too far. So I need to speed it up. But this was really fun. It was a 3-hour live stream with lots of other Star Trek podcasters. And, you know, just some people who are fans of the show or friends of the show, like Nadia. But we had Brian Murphy from Trek, Marry, Kill. We had the two guys, Andrew and Dave, from the TNG's podcast. We had Jeffrey, who's a friend of the show. We had Andrea, my co-host from the TNG podcast. We had, oh gosh, I feel like we had some more people. Oh yeah, we had David from... Oh gosh, he has a podcast also. It's not a Star Trek podcast though, but he's a voice actor and amazing. Yeah, and we just all came on and just talked about why we love Star Trek, why we're into it, why it matters to us. And it was a really special conversation. I mean, it was 3 hours, so it was like a whole bunch of conversations. But it was really special to just talk about why we love Trek, why it matters to us, what it means to us. I was really moved, as I always am, by the number of people who come to this show because of someone in their family. Like, I used to watch it with my dad. I used to watch it with my uncle. I used to watch it with my mom. You know, how many families just would sit together and watch the show together. I just think that's really cool, especially now with streaming and stuff. I don't know how much of a thing that is anymore, that families sit around and watch a show together. And I can imagine it's a lot harder because we have so much more choice. You know, we don't just have like the five channels to pick from. You know, it's like we have infinite things. So it's probably even harder to find something that everybody likes. But okay, let me move up to something that's... Okay, so now I don't know where this was 2024. So I don't know where 2025 starts exactly. Costume battle, that was Halloween. So let's maybe, oh look, daddy issues. Let's maybe start here-ish. Let's start here. So this is probably December of 2024. Yeah, Robin rules, exactly. I wonder how many kids Riker has around the galaxy. I bet you Riker has none, other than the two he had with Troy. That's what I bet. Yeah, and multiple TVs nowadays. Like, I don't even have a TV. I just use my computer for everything. So it'd be kind of awkward for me to sit around my laptop with other people because the laptop's only so big. So, okay, a couple of these episodes. Ooh, too high. This one was really fun, the courtroom drama. So there were 7 courtroom episodes I talked about in this particular live stream. I don't know if I did author from Voyager or not, but it's weird because I feel like there are a lot of courtroom episodes of Trek. Like, I feel like in my mind there's tons and tons and tons, but in reality I guess not. I guess it's just they're so meaningful and memorable to me, or maybe because there are fewer of them, that's what makes them more meaningful. But I remember there being like so many, but when I went to do this, it was like, oh, actually, no, there's not as many. And there's those ones that stick out like Measure of a Man where you're like, oh my gosh. Or this one, which is First Duty, where Wesley and company gets put on trial. But the courtroom episodes are always juicy. You know, they're always good. They're always interesting. They're always talking about something that really makes you think. I think the drumhead was in here, the one where Admiral Satie comes along and she starts this whole witch hunt and she's trying to figure out who's working secretly with the Klingons and the Romulans and all this stuff. And basically Picard calls her out for just being a racist. and then she kind of loses all credibility and the episode ends, and you're like, oh my gosh. You know, like there's some, even though they're few, they're mighty, is what I'm saying. Let's see what else. The story of Worf. Okay, so this is actually interesting. I don't know what I talked about in this live stream about Worf, but I'm assuming it's the top 10 episodes of Worf from TNG, because at that time I had not watched all of Deep Space Nine. So I actually want to go back and do this video again. I have an entire list from Brian Murphy from Trek, Marry, Kill, from the Trek, Marry, Kill podcast that he gave me like, I don't know, a year ago or 6 months ago or something, probably around the time that I did this, that he has been curating all of Worf's best episodes and, you know, why he loves them, and Worf is his favorite character. And so I feel like I need to do this character justice. And I also have been thinking, because I just did this video on social media about whatever, it's just about silly things, but Worf is in it, and people were talking about like, Worf is so much better in Deep Space Nine than he is in TNG. Like, he wasn't really treated right in TNG because he was always just getting beat up and thrown to the side and all this stuff. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, I mean, he cut his teeth in TNG. He wouldn't have been in Deep Space Nine if he wasn't a beloved character from TNG. So it's not like he got no attention or whatever. However, I definitely agree that TNG Worf is not as impressive or, you know, refined or powerful as Deep Space Nine Worf. He's a lot more in control of himself, I think, and mature. And then we have Picard Worf, where he's this like warrior monk, and he's kind of reached his final stage of evolution, it seems. You know what I mean? He's like powered up all the way once you see him in Picard, and he's just like, he knows who he is, he knows his strengths, he knows what he's doing. I don't know, something about him just seems at his peak level. So I feel like to do Worf justice, it would only be fair to redo that video. It doesn't have to be a live stream. It could be a pre-recorded video. Ask me how long it's going to take me to make that, though. But it needs to be another video that really highlights his entire journey and not just his journey on TNG. It should start with a good episode of TNG with Worf, so probably nothing in season 1. We're probably going to skip that whole, what's that episode? Something about glory? Heart of Glory? We're probably going to skip that. We're going to skip that episode. Probably going to jump ahead to maybe when Alexander comes on the ship. I don't know. And just like really talk about that character, because I feel like there's so much more to say. Picard's best episodes, easy. That was easy. I mean, there's so many Picard episodes, which is what shocked me about Deep Space Nine, right? Is that I don't even think there are 10 Cisco episodes in all of Deep Space Nine. And maybe I'm wrong. And I guess we could count the, like the 6-part intro in season 7 or whatever, whichever season that was, where it was just like so many episodes of intro. But I don't even know if there are 10 episodes that are just about Cisco. Not about Cisco having a mental breakdown thinking he's someone else, but like just Cisco as Cisco. And that really shocked me in Deep Space Nine, because I feel like TNG was like the Picard show. You know, like most of the episodes are about Picard, and even and TOS, like a lot of it's about Kirk, and Voyager, a lot of it's about Janeway. And so Deep Space Nine, I just assumed a lot of it was going to be Cisco, and it wasn't. And I was like, oh, like this is a legit ensemble. A lot of it was Dax, if anything. I feel like every episode was about Dax. Anyways, why was I talking about that? Oh, because of Picard. Yep. Best villains of Voyager. Seska, amazing. Great villain. Great villainess. This is when, let's see. Yeah, I think this, no. I had already started doing video clips at some point. Just looking through to see when. I don't know when. At some point I had started doing video clips because I wanted to take this to Don't Skip the Scary Episode thumbnail of Beverly. Did I skip it? Oh, this one? Oh, thank you for pointing that out. This episode, yes. So this episode, this is how I know this was all Halloween, because the costume thing was Halloween and the scariest episodes was Halloween. Okay, this live stream, we talked about some of the scariest episodes of Star Trek TNG. This episode in particular, I forget the name of it. Beverly bothering more ghosts. So were you talking about this one, or are you talking about the Sub Rosa? So this episode, though, I forget the name of it, and it's that 2 moons circling, whatever. That's really stupid thing. But parts of this episode was really creepy because the whole ship, everybody on the ship had insomnia. No one could sleep. And so they were all hallucinating, all this stuff. And this scene in particular like legit terrified me. I remember watching this, and even when I watch this on the replay, which is rare because I don't love this episode, but when I rewatch it on the replay, this scene always gets me, where she's just like doing her thing in the morgue, and she turns and all the bodies are sitting up, and she's just like, and you could see her panicking. Like, I would lose my freaking mind. And she just closes her eyes and she goes, it's not real. It's not real. It's not real. And she opens her eyes and they're all laying back down. There's no way you couldn't pay me to close my eyes in that situation. You could not pay me, because let her close her eyes and start saying it's not real and let something touch her on the shoulder. Okay? Losing my mind. That would be me in this situation. This live stream, however, was a disaster. This live stream was so bad. The episode was interesting to talk about, but the live stream was so bad because this was when I first started doing video clips. It was this episode. But I remember I ran out of time. I underestimated how much time and effort it takes to make 30-second clips, because I thought, I make 30-second clips all the time. I do social media. This is not the same. And so I put all this time and effort into putting all the episodes together and having a little summary and pulling the clips, and I did not have time to edit all of that stuff together. So I was so bummed during this live stream. Like, you can see my sad face. This is me being sad. Look at how sad I was, because I was like, I wanted to show, like, I had in my head how amazing it was going to be, and then in reality it was not. It was not, but that's okay. Sometimes it's like that. Peptide cake was scary. Yes. See, the peptide cake was scary for you as a kid, but for me, it just made me want cake. And it still does. Whenever I see it, I'm like, that cake looks, Worf makes that cake look good with mint frosting. Yes, please. This was a fun one. Just 10 Q episodes. And I think, if I remember right on this live stream, we talked about Q episodes, not just in TNG. We did TNG and Voyager. Oh, I don't know if we did Picard, because Q was definitely in Picard. I would bet not, just because Q was a dick in Picard. He was the worst. I probably said it for honorable mention, because Q was in Picard and his storyline mattered, but he was just the worst. Like, he actually backhanded Picard in one scene. And you're just like, what? Like, that's just so not Q to backhand Picard, to backhand anybody. That's just not him. So I didn't super love the depiction of Q in Picard, but I liked that they kind of gave us closure on his story. So probably he was not, that none of those episodes were in the top 10, but a lot from TNG and a handful from Voyager. I thought Q was just so delightfully fun in Voyager. So that was a fun episode. This one right here, what if Riker took the captain's chair? I know Dustin over at Dustin Wing, which used to be Best of Trek, Worst of Trek YouTube channel, did a whole thing about what if Riker became captain. I think he did a whole bunch of what if somebody else became captain of all these different ships. And I remember him saying something to the effect of, it's not that different. Like, if Riker was captain, it wouldn't be that different, or like things wouldn't have become catastrophically terrible, which I agree with. I don't think things would be that different at all if Riker were captain. I think Riker would have made a great captain. I think he would have had a lot of the same connections that Picard had. I think he had connections with the Klingons, so I think the whole Klingon Civil War situation would have played out the same exact way. I do think Riker's more of a hothead than Picard and would not have been as diplomatic in certain situations. I don't think he would have been kidnapped for chain of command, for example. However, that's why he's got these other people to balance him. Do you remember in the episode Time's Arrow, where Picard stayed back in the cave with Guinan, and Riker was like, we gotta go get him. And I think it was either Troy or Beverly who was like, you're the captain now. You can't just be running off on away missions, which, thank you. You know, like, you can't be running off on away missions. Someone's got to stay here and captain the ship. And Riker was like, all right. So I feel like even in those situations where he maybe is not the most delicate or the most politically savvy person in the room, he's got counselors that he could lean on. So yeah, I don't think things would be different at all if Riker was captain. This one right here with Barclay, 5 times Barclay surprised us, was interesting because Barclay as a character I don't super love, but all of his episodes are fire. They're all so good. Even the cringy, creepy holodeck episode, while it grosses me out to no end, it like gives so much fodder for conversation, right? Just the existence of that episode, I have so much to say about it. Like, I have so much to say. So I wouldn't say that's like a great episode, but it's an iconic episode. It's a memorable episode, and it makes me talk about a lot of things and think about a lot of things. But his other episodes, like The Nth Degree was super good. Genesis, he kind of kicked that off. That was super good. I don't know if that made it in this top 5. The episode with the silkworms, I like that episode. I mean, I like that episode, and I like him in that episode. He's super anxious. He's being his typical hypochondriac self. He's thinking he has transporter psychosis. But the way he does it, like how he's taking his pulse and drinking water constantly and all these things, like he just nailed it. He nailed it. So even though that's not my favorite character, this actor just like killed. Every time he came on screen, just killed. Let's see. The evolution of Kes. Oh, Kes was great. Harry Kim's top episodes, the EMH's top episodes. I'm like, what are the EMH's top episodes? See, back then, and actually, let me open this up. Love the Doctor. He's a no-nonsense. Let me open this up to see, because at the time I was doing like, I would do 10 episodes. I would do like episode 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. But now I just name the episode, so I don't have to think if I did that episode before or not. Okay, great. Yay. Projections. Ooh, that was good. Real life. Oh my gosh, that one always makes me cry. Revulsions. Living. Okay, these episodes are awesome. These episodes are so good. The Doctor is probably, I was gonna say my favorite character, but in Voyager, but no. 7 of 9, I adore. Janeway, I adore. I used to love B'Elanna when I watched the show in real time because I feel like I am B'Elanna. I like Harry. I like all of them. Actually, do I like all of them? I don't super love Neelix, and Tuvok's kind of annoying. But other than that, but I like them. But I like them fine. And all the other characters I really, really enjoy. So the EMH is one of my favorite characters, of the many favorite characters I have on Voyager. And these episodes are so good. Like, Critical Care, it doesn't feel like a season 5 or 6 episode. It feels more like a season 3 or whatever at some points. But the storyline is so, so, so good. Of like healthcare that's not really to care for people. I don't know, just the whole thing is really good. I think I just went in order of when the episode came out, because Projections was season 1 and Renaissance Man was season 7. But if I was to do this over, I would do it in order of what's actually my favorite, like what I think is the best episode. So Real Life, the one where the Doctor has a family, that would be way towards the top because I really love that episode. Latent Image, that would be probably way down towards the bottom. Living Witness, that would be towards the top for sure. That's the one where they find the Doctor's holo emitter and he's on some planet. It's like, I don't know, like 1,000 years later or something like that. And they're like, it's the warship Voyager, and they think that Voyager started this whole civil war, and the Doctor is like, that's not what happened. That's a good one. Revulsion, that's with the killer hologram. So terrifying. Talk about scary things that keep you up at night. It's absolutely that episode, Revulsion. That would be way towards the top. Body and Soul, which I think is kind of funny and silly, that'd probably be more towards the bottom. So yeah, things to think about if I had it to do over. I like how, so Karen says, I like how he got redeemed in Voyager. Yeah, I like how, and I think you're talking about the EMH. Yeah, the EMH started out really annoying in season 1. And by the time we got to season 7, he was just the best, you know? So I appreciate that as well. 7 of 9. Oh, this was another really special moment. This one right here, where we talked about First Contact. And that is, again, Brian Murphy of the Trek, Marry, Kill podcast. And we talked for a while, like, I don't know, like an hour. Oh, there we go. Hour and a half. We talked for a long time, a lot longer than I anticipated, about the movie First Contact. And we did that to celebrate First Contact Day, which is easily my favorite Star Trek movie, First Contact. It's so good. It still holds up. I still love it. Like, flaws and all, I don't even care. Any other little nitpicky things, I'm just like, I don't even care. It's great. I don't even care. And the conversation we had was really interesting, because instead of just being me gushing about how much I love this movie, which is easy to do, instead we talked about some of the other layers that are in this movie. And we talked specifically about the character of Cochrane, the character of the Borg Queen, and maybe the character of Data, I think, and just kind of their three different journeys and their 3 different desires throughout this movie. So Cochrane is some legend and some hero in the far future, but now he's just a drunk trying to make a buck. And how do you reconcile that as a person? So we talked about being Cochrane. Like, how do you reconcile? People are telling you, you're such a legend, you're so amazing, you're so incredible, I know what you have for breakfast because I read all the books about you. You know what I mean? How do you handle that? And you seeing who you are now and then seeing who you will be Do you accept that? Do you want to accept that? I mean, in the movie, he literally runs away. He literally tries to run from his future, and then they like shoot him in the butt and bring him back. And we talked about the queen, how, in my opinion, she's just looking for a collective. She's looking to belong. She's looking to expand her family. She's looking for connection. And so is Data. He's looking for connection as well, but in a totally different way, right? The queen is getting connection by force, and Data is like by forcing assimilation. I am forcing you to be like me. Data is getting connection through trying to assimilate. He is trying to become human on purpose because he wants to be a part of the human experience, which I think is really beautiful. It's a super interesting conversation. Let's see. The most dangerous aliens. I wonder if I got 10 of those. I bet you I didn't. I wonder if I did. Hold on, let me open this one. I know there's Q. I know there's Kevin.
Alien is so...
Let's see. Okay, yeah, there's not that many. It's like I'm trying to think, are there 10 super powerful godlike beings in just TNG? Because there's godlike being, like, that's a thing. That's a trope. That's a Star Trek trope. Thank you, TOS, of having these godlike beings, which there should be. If there's all kinds of life out there, there should be alien life that's more advanced, that's less advanced, that's equally advanced. So yeah, Nagilum, that episode was dumb. The Q, the Cytherians, the ones who kidnapped the Enterprise via Barclay, the Travelers, yep, and the Dowd. So again, you think there'd be more, but no, that's it. Can future tech cure grief? Cloud storage for the brain. Okay, this live stream I talked about a bunch of other shows, not just Trek, or maybe not Trek at all, a bunch of other shows where you can download your consciousness into either the cloud or an AI body, or a robot body or some other device. Maybe you can back up your memory, or you can just copy it, or you destroy your whole body, but your memory goes on, like your existence goes on in some kind of technological form. And a lot of the episodes that I mentioned in that live stream were canceled almost immediately after the live stream. So I was like, everybody, you got to go watch these shows. You got to go watch these shows. And then it was like canceled. Some of them, I think the shows were coming to an end anyways. They had already decided like this is going to be our last season. But some of them, I think they just lost steam or something and just happened to be canceled right after I talked about them. So that was a bit sad. Those shows are super good. Okay, the best captain, the best first officer, all of those were really fun. And I want to give a shout out to Wingrace, who was in the chat a little bit earlier, and to Dustin, to Nadia, and I think that's it. Who came? Let me just check. Yeah, for showing up every single week to talk about who the best captain is of Star Trek. And that was all Trek. That was old Trek and new Trek. So I broke it up into two pieces. I did old Trek for the first piece, like this one, best first officer, and the new Trek for the second piece of best first officer, right? Because there's like so many Treks at this point, including the cartoons. And it was like, who's the best of all of these things? And these were really hard, like so much harder than I thought they would be. So best captain, a lot of people, I think it was more of like who was the first person I watched? What was the first show I watched? And that has more connections. So a lot of people were just like, that was the first one I watched, so that's my favorite captain. But when we got down to the grades, because I think I had like 3 categories for every single one of these things. And it was like, how are they on these 3 categories? So we could make it more of an even playing field. When we looked at those 3 categories and said who was objectively the best at this job, it was super hard. I think probably captain was the easiest one on this entire list, because for me, for example, as much as I love Janeway and she's my favorite captain, I would never want to be on her ship because she's kind of crazy. You know, like I would never want to be on her ship. I think she's awesome. I think she's cool. Oh, hey, Wayne Grace is still here. I was like, I just would not, like, I just would not want her being like, forget it, destroy the caretaker's array. We're just going to be trapped here. What? Or every time she's like, self-destruct, whatever. What? No, like, no. So I believe I picked Picard because I think he is the best boss. Like, if I had a boss in real life that I had to, be in these life or death situations with, I would 1000% want Picard because he listens to his people. He is diplomatic. He thinks things through. He's not a hothead. He doesn't rush to, he's just like the perfect, like that would be my ship. That would be my ship. So Wingrace said, I hope you're all happy with your 2025. And I will second that. I hope you're all happy with your 2025 and excited about your 2026. PS2 Chipper says Cisco. Yeah, I think that was the easiest one. And then we got to first officer. It was like, ooh. Then it got really tough because we were like, I don't know, who is a good first officer? What makes a good first officer? I mean, we had Kira in there, and we're like, but Kira's not even Starfleet. She's Bajoran. So should she even be held to Starfleet ideals? Not really. You know, so there's just all these nuance. And then we had Saru, who was first officer, then captain, then first officer. Like, what is going on? And then Best Doctor was also really sticky because because of the doctor's bedside manner. That's what it was. We're going to assume all the doctors are great doctors, which is why they're doctors on all these different ships and space stations, except for Dr. Ta'ana because she's a nut job. But we're going to assume the other doctors are all good. But for some of them, it was just like, it was just real. It just came down to either their personalities or their bedside manner or whatever. Like for me, Dr. McCoy would not be my doctor. He's too gruff and I don't like it. For other people, they were like, Beverly could not be my doctor because I don't like the way she is. Or Colbert could not be my doctor because he's too soft and squishy. Or like Benga could not be my doctor because he's never in there doing doctor stuff. Like, I think we voted Nurse Chapel as the best doctor of New Trek or something like that because she's the one who's always doing the doctor stuff on the ship. That one was really hard. And then best engineer, I think, was easier because it was more objective. But I believe that... I'm not sure if I had Rutherford on this list, but probably. But Rutherford is like a lower decker, so he's not a chief engineer. So is he the best engineer? I don't know. So that was a little bit tricky too. But you would think it'd be so straightforward, just like who's the best. But I wasn't asking who's your favorite. I was asking who's technically the best at this job. And so that was tough. Even this one, like just looking at this picture of Scotty, B'Elanna, and Geordi, it's like, how the heck do you pick? How the heck do you pick? And then O'Brien would have been in this. And then whoever the engineer was for Enterprise, if there was an engineer on Enterprise, which I don't know. This one was fun. Beware of Badgie, where we just talked about the most adorable little psychopaths in Star Trek. That was just a fun episode. Okay, here is where I started my Deep Space Nine watch 5 months ago is when I started watching Deep Space Nine, and I did a review of every single season where I did the top 3 episodes and the bottom 3 episodes. And then when I got to season 5, there were no bottom episodes. So then I just said my favorite episodes. And then it was just my favorite episode, my favorite 5 or my favorite 10 or whatever. That was such a fun journey. That was so great. I had never seen Deep Space Nine all the way through. Oh, was Trip? So I didn't know what he did exactly on the ship. I thought he was the first T'Pol's the first officer. I don't know. We've established, when it comes to Enterprise and TOS, I don't totally know the roles of the people. Like, yeah, I think we've established that. So I just didn't know who it was. And I haven't seen enough for me to have an opinion about Trip as an engineer. Yes, anyways, like I was saying, what a great experience watching Deep Space Nine. It was so fun. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I haven't seen this yet. I had the same feeling that I had when I watched Star Wars for the first time. I didn't watch Star Wars until I was in my 20s. So Star Wars had been out since it came out in the 70s, right? Like it had been out, but everybody was so into it that I just kind of was like, ugh, like that's just, everybody just kind of played it out to me. And then one day I was like bored and I was in the library looking for something to do, and they had videos you could rent from the library. So I was like, I'll try Star Wars episode 4 or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh. Or 3, I don't even know where I started. Did I start in order? I don't even know if I started in order, but I was like, oh my gosh, this movie's awesome. You know, and I watched all of them and I was just like, I cannot believe I missed out on this. I should have watched this franchise a long time ago. That's how I felt with Deep Space Nine. That same exact feeling of like, I should have been watching this a long time ago. I could be enjoying reruns at this point. But it was so fun to go through for the first time. And some of you on this live stream right now or watching on the replay were around when I was watching it for the first time and were around to protect me from 35-year-old spoilers so I could experience it for the first time myself. But like, man, that was such a fun ride. The characters were great. The fact that it was long-form storytelling gave it the ability to do things that none of the other Treks could do. Just for that reason alone. They did not have to hit their reset button after every single episode because it was episodic. They got to keep going. They got to have part 2s, part 3s, part 4s, part 5s, part 6s, you know, where they're just telling the same story. And you got to see the characters really grow and change. I mean, I have this picture here of Nog. I have this picture here of Nog after his leg injury and after he came back to Deep Space Nine, and he was just like so depressed and just couldn't function. And then he decided to live in the holodeck for the rest of his life. And then they were trying to get him out of the holodeck. Like that was so nuanced. And we don't get to see that usually in Trek. Usually there's some catastrophic thing that happens, like Worf's spine gets broken and he wants to kill himself. And then they're like, no, we'll just replace his spine. It'll be fine. And then he dies and you're like, oh my gosh, did Worf just die on the table? Did they just have to tell Alexander that his dad's gone? And then Worf is back alive and you're like, whoa. And then we never talk about it again. Like we see him doing rehab at the end of the episode. And then by the next episode, he's like up and walking around like nothing ever happened. So the depth used to be have to be contained in an episode because we have to hit reset at the end. But here in Deep Space Nine, they didn't have to do that. So we saw Nog get really excited about joining Starfleet and wanting to be the first Ferengian Starfleet. And then he joins Starfleet and he's just little Mr. Excited Cadet. And he's going through all these things and experiences. And he's like, I want to be on the front lines. I want to be like Nova Squadron or Red Squadron or whatever the F they're called in Deep Space Nine. And he wants to be the best of the best and all of this. And then he's out in a battle and he gets shot. He gets injured and he has to lose his leg. And then he just like loses. The color just drains from his life. You know, he just loses everything. He loses his desire to go on. It's not what he thought it was. He feels disillusioned. Like, and we got to see that whole roller coaster. It wasn't just like this moment and then it's all fixed at the end, which is what I thought. I thought by the end of the episode, he would have his leg back and it'd be fine. But when Bashir was like, he has to lose his leg, I was like, what the heck? Like, are they going to have him just not have a leg? And they're like, oh, we put, we gave him a prosthetic leg. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Cause we have that, now, of course they would have that then. But then when he comes on and he's like limping and he's just like sad, I was like, oh, are we going to see some like emotional fallout from a trauma? It's like, really? On Star Trek? I mean, it was wild to me. Even though it was only this one episode of his healing, just that alone was really special. Stuff like that is what made this show really special. Kai Wynn, that mofo. Like, I've never hated a villain more than I hated Kai Wynn and Gul Dukat. Wow. That alone is worth watching the show. That alone. Just the two of them and their nonsense. Let's see. Okay, then I did a couple double takes because there were several episodes of Trek, and there are several episodes of Trek that are copy and paste of one another, or that are sometimes they're not straight copy paste. Sometimes they're just thematically the same idea, but they're not a straight up like scene for scene, like this first one with, like, look at this. Come on. Like this is the same episode. this is the same episode. And this one as well. Like it's just the same episode. But there's episodes where it's not as directly connected. Like this one, for example. Can you see that one? This triple take that was between the Arena and Darmok and Terrarium on Strange New Worlds. Terrarium was supposed to be just like the Arena. It was supposed to be like the Arena prequel or something like that. But what actually happens in the story is a little more like Darmok as far as connecting with someone else, or it's a little more like Enemy Mine, which is the movie that I feel like these are all based off of. But it's a little bit more like, oh gosh, what's the Geordi episode in season 1 or 2 where he's trapped with the Romulan? I think it's called something with enemy. The enemy lines, something with enemy in it. And it is a little bit like that as well. And I kind of like that because I feel like it's a very Trek trope thing to just keep reusing good ideas. And I'm fine with that as long as the ideas get better, the executions get better over time. But I like this too, where it's like not a straight copy paste, but it's just the same idea and it's massaged to be a little bit different. And then it's done in a way where it's like interesting, it's creative, and it feels fresh and also comfy. It feels comfy because we've seen it before, but fresh because we haven't seen it like this before. I think that's like a really perfect balance of salty and sweet. This one right here, Confession, is one of my favorite thumbnails of all time. It's just so good. The thumbnail with the title is just like perfection. Confession. I'm in love with the hologram. I was so proud of that. I was like, I don't even care what I do in this live stream. This alone, well done. Well done, Charisse. And The Enemy, thank you. It's called The Enemy. And you can see by the number of views, it's like 4 times the number of views of every other video, just because the thumbnail and title are so freaking strong. Of course, all those 400 people stopped watching in the first 10 seconds when they realized it was like a live stream. But that's okay. That's okay. That was a really fun episode. I liked being able to talk about all the people hooking up with holograms. I think that was just a funny idea. I want to do another video where it's called The Holodeck is Trying to Kill Me. I'm going to call it that. And it's just going to be like a bunch of the episodes where the safeties go off on the holodeck and people are trying to not die. I wonder though, I mean, I'll need enough episodes to actually talk about it. So I have a little list going and I have a couple ideas in mind, but I'll need enough to have, like, I would love to have 10 and not like 3, because 3 is just not enough to talk about. So I feel like at least 10 times people were stuck in the holodeck. And if I have to, I know for sure there was the one episode of Prodigy. Like, if I have to, like, go dig into Prodigy and Lower Decks, I will. But I don't love to dig into Prodigy because it's hard to find. That's the only reason. Like, I love the show, but it's hard to find clips. Like, it's hard to find the show to get the clips to put in the whatever. But yeah, that was a good one. This one too, 7 times Starfleet crew got brainwashed. I had a list of maybe 20 episodes, and then I narrowed it down to my 7 top ones. And while we were talking in the live stream, so many people in the live stream gave me even more ideas that were not on my list of ideas. So many ideas that I made a whole nother list for a whole second video of Brainwash Part 2, because there's other episodes where I'm like, oh, I should have talked about that one. Oh, I should have talked about that one. Oh man, that one's really good too. So I have a whole nother one. I don't know at this moment in time if or when I will do the second part, but there's a bunch of great episodes that I would love to just spend some time talking about that I've already talked about before, but I want to talk about in this context of being brainwashed. We did a few episodes of Trek, Marry, Kill, which I would love to continue to do as shorts, as YouTube shorts, and just like hop on live streams from time to time and just, roll a couple episodes. Wishful thinking. I'm thinking of a person with much more time maybe than I personally have, but that's something that I would definitely love to do, is just hop on live from time to time and just play a quick game of Trek, Marry, Kill. I think that'd be super fun. Then we did last week another Star Trek trivia. We had Star Trek trivia before, and then this Star Trek trivia, the same book. And I think the trivia is super interesting, but also it's hard to do that way. Like, I want to do trivia in a more fun way, but I do not have the capacity to do it like I'm picturing in my head, where it's kind of like the game Seen It, or something where there's like visual things and videos and clips and like timers and buzzers, or like a pub trivia thing, where you like, even something like that where it's like more gamified and more fun. I would love to do something like that. If I ever figure out how to do something like that, I will do something like that. Currently, I don't know how to do it. And just like that, we are to present time, which you cannot see because my face is in the way. But that is all of what's happened this year. Let me switch back. There we go. So that's a look back at 2025 and some of 2024 of just the different live streams, and it's just been such a pleasure and a joy, and I really wanted a chance to go back through memory lane with you. If you're still watching at this point, God bless you. But I just wanted a chance to go back and just say thank you. Thank you for being a part of my journey. Thank you for being a part of my 2024 and 2025 for many of you. And thanks for giving me a place where I can just sit and geek out about Star Trek and just geek out about shows that I love, shows that I hate, characters I love, characters I hate. As you can imagine, not many people in my real life want to sit around and talk at this depth about these different subjects, understandably so. So I love having a chance to just geek out and talk about the things that I think are interesting or weird. I was at this business conference, and there was just like some random guy there. I think he was working the booth or the cameras or something. And somehow we got on the topic of Star Trek. And then we were talking about Nemesis. And I got so mad. And I was like, I will never forgive Star Trek for killing Data. Never, And he was just like, yeah, I totally get it. And a friend of mine was standing next to me, and she was just like, what is going on right now? She's so out of the loop, poor thing. But those moments, it's like moments I live for. Moments where I can be like, I hate what they did to Data. And people can be like, I know, right? Like, people know the ridiculous minutia of detail that we all know. So I want to say thank you. I appreciate you for being a part of my geek out journey. And I'm looking forward to next year. I think next year is going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be amazing. Thank you so much for being on this journey so far. And I'm looking forward to what we're going to do next year. So with that, I'm going to wish you a happy new year. I know several of you are already in New Year, or about to hit New Year, or hit it 55 minutes ago. We still have a couple hours left for me on the West Coast. But happy New Year, and I will see you all next time. Night.